Alright guys, so for this trick, let's pretend this is a borrowed deck of cards that the spectator can completely shuffle. So as the spectator is shuffling, I'm going to ask them a quick question. Do you think you're a good liar? Because I've actually been developing this skill recently where I can tell whether or not somebody is lying to me. And if you don't mind, with this trick, I'd actually love to put you to the test. So once the spectator is done shuffling, I'll ask them, do you want to cut the cards? They can cut the cards wherever they want. And right from where they cut, we'll just take a couple of cards here. That's actually enough. And we'll just have the spectator shuffle the cards even more, just like this. And I'd also like them to just think of any one of these cards that they're holding on to, okay? So obviously there's a bunch of cards here to choose from, but just for this video's sake, I'm just gonna have one card chosen so that everybody watching can think of the same card together, okay? But do keep in mind that if this was a real life setting, the spectator could think of any one of these cards and they could shuffle it back here in the center, anywhere they want, really. Okay, so once you have a card in mind, we're gonna be using it for this little exercise here because obviously I'm gonna be telling whether or not you're lying to me, but before I can do that, I actually have to know what you telling the truth sounds like, right? Because I need to have some basis on what you being honest sounds like. So in order to do this, we're gonna do a quick little exercise here where I'm just gonna show you some cards and you just tell me yes or no, do you see your chosen card here? So, do you see your card? They say no, okay? And I want you to be honest with me in this part because I need to have a basis of what you being honest and truthful sounds like so I can record that tone of voice in the back of my mind, basically. So, yes or no, do you see your card? And they say yes, okay? And let's do this one final time. That should be enough for me to know. Yes or no, do you see your card? And they say no. Okay, perfect. So obviously it doesn't really matter where the card is, but as long as you're being truthful with me that entire time, I now should have a pretty good idea of what you being honest sounds like. So we actually don't really need these anymore. We can just chuck those back in the center of the deck. Right over here is fine. Just like this. And spectator, can you actually go ahead and shuffle the cards even more so we can lose them in the deck? Okay. So for this next part of the trick, now we're gonna add in the factor of you being able to lie. So it's gonna get a little bit more exciting, okay? So for this, I'll give you a quick little example of what I want you to do. So let's just say I pull out a card here, and I'm gonna tell you the color of this card right now is red. Do you think I'm lying, or do you think I'm telling the truth? Spectator thinks I'm telling the truth. Yes, I actually was telling the truth. So this is exactly what I want you to do with me in just a minute here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you a few cards, and then I just want you to basically either lie or tell me the truth, it's up to you, about the color of these cards. And I'll essentially be able to tell just by the tone of your voice whether or not you're lying to me, okay? So we can start from a random spot in the deck, let's say right about here. They can call it stop, it doesn't really matter where. But we'll start from here and I'll turn my head away so that I'm not looking, but I want the spectator to tell me the color of this card. And remember, you can be truthful or you can lie to me. So if the spectator tells me this is a black card. Ooh, starting off with a lie already. Damn, yeah, this is a red card, I can tell. That tone of voice was definitely different from your previous ones. So try to keep a consistent tone of voice because it'll be very, very hard for me to tell it that way. Okay, so the next one here, what do you think this is? Or, I mean, tell me what it is. They say it's a black card. Okay, see that one sounded like the previous ones. This one you're telling the truth, right? Yeah. Okay, next one, turn my head again. They tell me this is a black card. Ah, no, interesting. There's a little nuance when you're lying. I can tell this is actually a red card over here. Well, let's just do one final one over here. This is a black card, they tell me. Okay. Yeah, so that one was truthful. Okay, so as you can see, it's just a weird little thing. I can't really describe it, but it's just the nuances of your voice. There's something about it when you're lying. It sounds a little different to me. And okay, quick question: are you right-handed or left-handed? They can tell me whatever. I just want to put these cards on the table over here. So can you just hold out your hand for me, so that we can place those cards over here? Place your hand on top. We'll get back to those later. But remember the card that you were actually thinking of earlier in this trick, okay? Yeah, so I want you to bring that back in your head. And I'm gonna try to basically decipher what your card is by asking you some questions. And your answers to these questions can either be the truth or the lie. But I'll be able to tell, of course, whether you're being truthful or whether you're lying to me, right? So for my first question is the color of the card. Is it a red card or a black card? So they can tell me whatever they want. They tell me it's a red card. No, see, that's actually a lie. Your card was a black card. I can tell, it's the nuances in your voice. Okay, so since it was black, it was either clubs or spades. They tell me spades. No, again, you're lying to me. It was a club, I can tell. It's interesting. Try to switch it up. Okay, so since it was a club, it was either numbers or pictures, right? So which one was it? They say numbers. Okay, actually you're being truthful for once, interesting. So it was a number card. So was it odd or even? They tell me it was even. Okay, again, you're actually lying to me. I actually know it was an odd number. I can just tell. It just sounds different. I don't know, I can't really describe it. So since it was odd, was it a low number, a middle number, or a higher number? They tell me it was a higher number. Okay, so you're being truthful again. So that tells me it's either, I'd say probably a 7 or a 9. 7 of clubs, 9 of clubs, that's like the higher numbers in the range there. So out of those two, 7 or 9, which one is your card? The 7 of clubs or the 9 of clubs? And they tell me their card is the 7 of clubs. You should have stuck with the truth on that one, because that one was such an easy lie. Your card is actually the 9 of clubs. So there you go. Just from talking, just from listening to your voice, I can tell whether or not you're lying to me. But okay, I do actually have one more final question for you. That card is currently under your hand, yes or no? And they say no. You see, that one was actually almost pretty convincing. You almost sounded like you were telling the truth there. But no, that was actually a lie, right? I say, no, I'm telling the truth. That card's not under my hand. I'm holding those 4 cards from before. No. See, you're actually a really good liar this time, but no, your card is under your hand. Take a look. They lift up their hand and they find that from before, where there was once 4 cards, there is now only 1 single card. And when they look and see their 9 of clubs, they will be completely surprised. And that right there is the trick. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this trick. It's definitely one of my new favorites. I really love this one. And if you want to learn how it's done, be sure to stick around for the tutorial. Alright guys, so here's the tutorial for the trick that you just saw. So I'm super excited to show you guys how this trick works, because this is definitely becoming one of my new favorites recently. I think for spectators, this is such an entertaining trick, because the fact that they get to tell the truth and they get to lie to you, it's just a lot of fun to be a part of this trick, and the eventual kicker ending of the card appearing under their hand is such a great moment. Let's get into the tutorial. So this is a completely impromptu trick, believe it or not. You actually can use a totally borrowed deck of cards for this. Doesn't even need to have 52 cards. If someone hands you a deck of cards and says, show me a trick, this is actually a really cool trick to show them. So I like to start by having the spectator shuffle the cards as much as they want, and as the spectator is shuffling, I'm just going to bring up the question, do you think you're a good liar? And then I like to say, because I've been developing this skill where I can tell whether someone is lying to me or not, and just kind of introduce the idea of the trick in this first part of the trick as the spectator is shuffling the cards. But once they're done shuffling, you ask them to cut the cards anywhere. The only reason for this is so that they know that it's a completely free shuffled deck, and that we're going to take the cards from where they cut. Because some people might think you're using specific cards from the top or the bottom, but if the spectator gets to cut the deck before you choose the cards, and then you take the cards from the top, then they'll know it's a completely free choice. For this, you're actually going to need to pull out a specific number of cards. You need to pull out 8 cards exactly. So I do this by pulling out 4, and then I do another 4. And then I kind of pretend like I'm going to pull out another small pile. Then I go, actually, no, that's okay. This just kind of makes it seem like I don't actually care how many cards we're using, but I actually do care. I do want there to be 8 cards exactly, because this process that you're going to be doing with this thought of card, it's sort of a self-working control to control their thought of card, whichever one it is. You're going to be able to control that card to the top of the deck without even knowing what the card is. So I'll show you guys how this works. As long as you have 8 cards, this should work perfectly fine. So it works by them having a card thought of. Let's just say in this case we have the king of diamonds thought of, okay? So they can shuffle the cards, so it doesn't matter where that king ends up. It can be in the middle, it can be on the top, on the bottom. It doesn't matter where that card actually ends up, but this is what's going to happen, is you're going to start in jogging and out jogging cards. And you tell the spectator that you want them to be truthful for this part because you want to gauge what them telling the truth sounds like so that you can record that tone of voice in the back of your mind and use it for later when they actually lie to you. You're going to do this in jogging and out jogging process here. You're going to strip out all of the out jog cards and show the spectator these cards and just ask them a yes or no question. Do they see their thought of card here? Now let's take a look here. In this case, the spectator is going to say no. Basically, no matter what the spectator says, you always want their thought of card to end up in the pile that goes on top. So in this case here, they tell me that they do not see their card. That obviously means that their card is in my other hand, because since it's not here, it has to be here. So I always want the pile with their card to go on top. So then I will take the pile with their card, which is this one, and put it on the top. If I do that process 3 times, their card, no matter what they're thinking of, that card will end up on the top of the deck. So let's do this one more time. We're gonna do the in jogging and out jogging process. And I ask them once again, do they see their card? Now let's take a look here. In this case, they should see their card because it's the king of diamonds here. So they're gonna tell me, yes, I do see my card. That will tell me that it's here because they saw their card in this pile. Now I know the rule is the pile with their card must go on top. So the pile with their card goes on the top, okay? And now if I do this one final time, I do the in jogging and out jogging, I strip out the out jog cards and I ask them, do you see your thought of card? In this case, they will tell me no because they do not see the king of diamonds here. That will tell me that their card is in my other hand. So that means I have to put this pile on the top after that process is over. So if I do that 3 times, no matter what card they're thinking of, it should control that card to the top of the deck. As long as their answers are truthful in this part, the card that they are focusing on should end up as the top card in this position. Let's just go ahead and do a very quick other example. I'll do it with the jack of clubs here. Okay, so the jack of clubs. See, I'm just doing this to prove that it does work with any card. So let's do this again. I just shuffled the deck, so I genuinely do not know where that card is. But we're gonna do the in jogging and out jogging process. So yes or no, they say yes. That tells me it's in this pile, so I have to put this pile on top. Okay, so let's do it again. In jog, out jog. They say no, so that tells me it's in the other pile, so I have to put the other pile on top. Okay. So I do in jog, out jog. This is the 3rd and final time. Take the out jog cards. They tell me yes. So since it's in this pile, I have to put it on top. And there you go. Their thought of card will always be controlled to the top of the pile if you follow that rule. So you're using this as a control to control their thought of card to the top, but you're also using it as your presentation to get a basis for what them telling the truth sounds like. So now you pretend like you don't really need these anymore and you just want to leave their card here on the top of the pile. What I like to do is I dribble about 3/4 of the deck, so I have about 1/4 of the deck left in my hand. Can you just go ahead and drop the little pile of cards right here back in the deck? And as I do this, I'm gonna point with my right hand to this deck. And what I'm actually doing is I'm actually going to be secretly memorizing this card, the King of Hearts, that I see on the bottom of the pile here. So this is actually going to turn into my key card. So if I just point once, just a very simple glance, I will be able to know that bottom card is the King of Hearts. And the reason for this is because they're gonna take the pile and place it on top of the deck. And now when I put the deck back together, remember their card's controlled to the top here, which is the jack of clubs in this case. Look at that. Those 2 cards will now be touching each other in the deck. So now I have a key card right next to their thought of card. If I'm feeling risky, I can actually hand the deck over to the spectator and I can ask them to give it a quick overhand shuffle. Most of the time, how spectators overhand shuffle is they will take a massive block from the middle like this and then shuffle cards on top. If they do this, it should work out because your key card and your thought of card are in the upper half of the deck. So spectators usually will not take a small pile like this. That's like the only way this can get ruined. If they take about half the deck or more and then just start shuffling, it should be completely fine and the cards will not get separated. So once the cards have been shuffled, you just tell them to do a quick one and then stop and hand the cards back to you. Now you tell them that the second phase of this trick is you're gonna add in the factor of you being able to lie to me. In order to explain this process, you're gonna give them a quick example by pulling out a card and then having them guess the color. The card that you're gonna pull out is actually going to be the key card that you just saw. So you're gonna go in the deck and you're gonna search for that King of Hearts. When I see that King of Hearts, I'm gonna immediately take all the cards in my left hand and cut it to the top. And as I do, I can automatically see the spectator's card that they're thinking of. And this is where I'm going to get the information of what the spectator's card is. But it's going to be a very quick glance. You're not going to have a lot of time to look at this card, so you just want to make this a very, very quick glance. So I'm going to go through, I see Jack of Clubs, and I'm now going to remember Jack of Clubs for the rest of the trick, because this is now the spectator's card, and that's going to be the card that I will reveal in the end. But I then take the bottom card that I cut to. This is apparently the card I was supposed to be searching for. I'm going to set the deck down, and now I'm going to have them just guess whether I'm lying or telling the truth about the color. And it doesn't really matter what they say, because this is just an example. But now you're going to shove that card back in the center of the deck somewhere. Now you're going to do some overhand shuffles, and you can retain the spectator's card on the top. The Jack of Clubs will stay there if you just hold your fingers as you shuffle like this. And you're going to be explaining to the spectator that you're just going to take a couple of cards off the top of the deck and have them tell you what the color is, and they can either lie or tell the truth. Now, as you're overhand shuffling, you can do a couple of these retention shuffles, but after a few, you're going to actually get your 4 next memorized cards here. You're going to be shuffling 1, 2, 3, 4 cards off the bottom, and you're going to try to remember the color sequence of those cards to the best of your ability. It's very difficult to do this when you're talking to the spectator with your patter, but if you just get your patter out of the way by shuffling like this, and then just very casually, shuffle the cards like this, I remember black, black, red, black. So that was what I just saw, right? When I do those 4 cards, I'm going to shuffle 1, 2, 3, 4, and then immediately throw the rest of the deck on top. So now that memorized color sequence, black, black, red, black, will now be directly on top of the spectator's card on top of the deck. And when I do this, I can continue to shuffle the cards just a couple more times, but then throw these back on the bottom. And that was not a retention shuffle. I'm just doing a normal overhand shuffle at this point, just to blend in. Now I'm gonna prepare myself for riffle force. So I'm gonna swing cut over about half the cards into my hand, catch a break, and then have the spectator call out stop at any point that they want to. But I'm really just going to break the cards at the pinky break, set everything down, and now I'm going to turn my head, and I already know the color sequence of these cards is black, black, red, black, because I just peeked at them, so I can tell whether or not the spectator is lying just by their answers. So it doesn't really matter what they say, but you're going to do this whole process of them telling you the cards, and you're just going to lift them up one by one like this. And this is a very, very entertaining part for the spectator, because the spectators now will really start to believe in your abilities, and they'll start to believe that what you're actually doing is kind of real. And then I like to follow up after I'm finished with this process. I like to follow up and say, I'm not really sure what it is. There's just some sort of nuance in your voice that really makes it easy for me to tell that you're lying. And as I say this entire thing, I'm actually going to be secretly loading the spectator's card on top of these 4 cards. And I do this by showing the cards like this, and I'm going to take my pinky and do almost a Cardini change with this card. I'm going to do a Cardini pinky pull-off move here like this as I show these 4 cards, and it's completely going to be concealed by these 4 cards in the front, because normally they would see this, but since I'm concealing it, they will not see it whatsoever. And now I'm going to take the cards in my right hand and I'm going to tilt them backwards like this so that they will go towards the top of the deck. And then I'm simply going to take my left hand fingers and then clamp them down. And that will basically secretly load that Jack of Clubs so that it's now on top of the deck. And at full speed, it should look something like this. So in the real trick, I would say. So yeah, I'm not really sure what it is. It's just something about the tone of your voice that just makes it sound really easy that you're lying. Something like that. But now you can see I've just loaded that card on top of these 4 cards. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread off the top 4 cards, pretending like I'm going to take these and place them on the table. But what I'm going to do is take these 4 cards, square them up, and ask the spectator if they're right-handed or left-handed. And then I'm going to come over with the table and say, I'm just going to place these cards right here, but go ahead and hover your hand over them for me. And as I do that, I'm simply going to just riffle off everything onto the deck except the last card. So now I'm simply holding 1 card. It's a very quick motion. I just go, can you actually just hover your hand over, riffle, and then I immediately come back and I pretend like I'm still holding 4 cards. I don't just hold this like a single card and drop it, because I want the spectator to believe that this is the packet of 4 cards. So I'm going to very carefully set the cards on the table, pretending like this is a packet of cards and I want to keep squared up. Ask the spectator to slowly just lower their hand on top of those cards and to keep it for the rest of the trick. So now the spectator will be holding that for the rest of the trick. You can just put the deck back together, and essentially the trick is over. All you have to do now is some acting when you are guessing the spectator's card. And I like to do this in the process of having them say the color, and then the suit, and then numbers or pictures, And then if it's a picture card, you could do male or female. If it's a number card, you could do odd or even. And then if it's a number card, you can do low, middle, or high. And then when you have that low, middle, or high information, you can narrow it down to 2 selections. In this case, we could do the Jack of clubs and the King of clubs. And then you just tell the spectator to name one of them. And it doesn't matter which one they name because it'll either be the lie or the truth, and you just tell them what it is. When the card is finally revealed, you say, yeah, so I can just tell by the tone of your voice whether or not you're lying. However, I do have one final question for you. And that final question is just a yes or no question. That card is currently under your hand, yes or no? It actually doesn't really matter what the spectator says at this point. Most people will say no because they truly believe that the card is not under their hand. And in that case, I like to do what I do in the performance, which is kind of play it off like they're lying to me. You're a pretty good liar, but that's actually the truth. And then you can reveal that it's under their hand. However, if they do say, yes, the card is under my hand, then I say, oh yeah, you're very good at telling the truth. And I say, yeah, take a look. And then they'll have a look. It really doesn't matter what they say at this point because the end of this trick will be very surprising to the spectator either way. As long as you remind them that there were 4 cards there before, they should be pretty shocked to find their card right there underneath their hand the entire time. So yeah, that's the trick. It's a little tricky to get down at first, I'll admit. There's a lot of information that you have to remember, and you definitely have to be good at your presentation when you're doing this trick. It's very important to keep the spectator engaged and to have fun with them. You know, little lines like, oh, I could just tell by the nuances in your voice, or something in your voice is telling me you're lying. You know, little lines like that sprinkled throughout this presentation will make it a fun time for the spectator, and that's really all that matters. You just want the spectators to have fun. So yeah, that's about all I can say for this trick. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and be sure to stick around for more videos coming soon. So yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.